Hi everyone. We're going to start chapter 24 now, which is the digestive system. So what digestion is digestion is the mechanical and chemical breakdown of foods and the absorption of the resulting nutrients by cells. So let's look at some general information about the digestive system. So first of all, let's look at parts of the digestive system. And you can basically separate our digestive system into two major groups. One is the alimentary canal, which is all this part, and the other are the accessory organs. So the alimentary canal, this is showing pretty much everything except the mouth. The alimentary canal is also known as the gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract. So this is a tubular portion of the digestive system that leads from the mouth to the anus. All right, so this includes the mouth, the pharynx, so not shown. Next is the esophagus, the stomach, and then the small intestine here, and then the large intestine, rectum, and anus. Now, the small intestine is named for its width, its diameter, not its length. So the large intestine has a larger diameter, and that's why it's named there. As you can see, the small intestine is much longer than the large intestine. Next are the accessory organs, which include the salivary glands, the liver, gallbladder, and the pancreas. And these are our glands are going to secrete fluids into the alimentary canal. So let's look at the functions of digestion. And the first function is ingestion. And this is the taking of food into the digestive tract through the mouth. All right? Next is mastication, and that is the chewing of food in the mouth. All right? Next is propulsion. So propulsion is the moving of food through the digestive tract. So one of those propulsion mechanisms is swallowing or deglutition. All right? This moves food from the oral cavity into the esophagus. So from the oral cavity here to the esophagus there. So we bypass the trachea. Next are movements that are shown here. The one on the right side is showing peristalsis. And this is alternating waves of contraction and relaxation of the muscles in organ walls. And so what peristalsis does is it pushes substance down a tube. You can think of it like, trying to get the last bit of toothpaste out of your toothpaste tube. You squeeze from the back to the front. And so we're squeezing always behind whatever we're trying to get down that tube. Next are mass movements. And these are peristaltic waves in which large sections of the intestinal wall contract. So this is going to force contents into the rectum. So this is what we see in the large intestine. So this is, something that would occur if you have diarrhea. We're pushing stuff very quickly into the rectum, then you got to go poop right after that. So next is the mixing movements. This is going to move food particles back and forth within the organ. So it's going to mix those food particles with the digestive juices. So this is what you're seeing here in the stomach. There's another thing that occurs in the small intestine called segmentation, and that's what we're seeing here. This is rhythmic contractions in the alimentary canal. So we are alternating, squeezing different areas that moves the food, mixing it with the digestive juices back and forth. All right, next is secretion movements. So secretions, not movements. But what we have in those secretions, some of those are mucus that's found in the secretions. So this is secreted along the entire digestive tract. All right, it helps liquefy the foods, it lubricates the food, and helps move the food through the digestive tract. We also have water there. It helps liquefy the food as well, making it easier to digest and absorb. We also secrete a lot of enzymes, and these are going to break down the food materials into smaller chemical products. Okay, so those products are easier to absorb. If we look at the types of digestion, one of these is going to be, here in the mouth. And this is mechanical digestion. This is a breaking of large pieces of food into smaller pieces of food. In doing so, we're going to change, without changing the chemical composition. So chewing is one of the places that occurs in the mouth. Another place is churning of food in the stomach. Now, mechanical digestion actually aids the next type of digestion, and that's chemical digestion. And there's a breakdown of complex food molecules into their simpler chemical building blocks by enzymes. This starts in the mouth and ends in the small intestine. So it's going to happen in the mouth, the small intestine, and also the stomach. All right? And so what we take into our body are larger things like carbohydrates, but we absorb into our blood are monosaccharides. We take in proteins. Proteins are broken down into amino acids primarily, and those are absorbed into our body. Lipids, so fats and oils, the main lipids we're talking about here, those are broken down into fatty acids and monoglycerides or glycerol into our body. Lastly, a very small portion of what we eat are nucleic acids, that's RNA and DNA, and those are broken down into nucleotides, and those are what are absorbed into our blood. All right, so once we get these small little guys here, small molecules, then we can absorb them. And so that's a passage of digested end products into the blood or lymph. So this mostly occurs in the small intestine, a little bit of it occurs in the stomach. Lastly here is defecation, and this is the elimination of indigestible or unabsorbed substances. So obviously that's where this whole process ends. All right, let's look at the histology of the alimentary canal. So looking at those tissues there. So the first is the mucosa. The mucosa is a mucous membrane. So when you look at this area right here is the mucosa. All right. So the mucosa is the innermost lining of the alimentary canal. So from that red line in there. So its functions, it secretes mucus, digestive enzymes, and hormones. It also absorbs the products of digestion, so they'll go in the other direction. All right. And it also protects against infectious agents. There are some sublayers here. So we have a lining epithelium, and it depends on where you're at, but like the small intestine, it's simple columnar epithelium. Well, that's what it mostly is throughout our digestive tract. A lot of those have goblet cells there to secrete mucus. All right. The next layer shown here in yellow is the lamina propria. And this is made of loose areolar connective tissue. It has many blood vessels in there so we can absorb nutrients. It contains lymphatic vessels, which absorb lipids and also defend against infections. So you're seeing these little green things are lymphatic structures. Next is a muscularis mucosa, which is that reddish line right there. All right, so this is smooth muscle that provides some movement in the mucosa. Next is the submucosa, which is shown here in gray. All right, so the submucosa contains many blood vessels to nourish the surrounding tissues and also carry away the absorbed substances. Now I want to point this out. The mucosa absorbs those substances from our digestive tract. The blood vessels in the submucosa carry those away. Outside of that is the muscularis externa. So this is the muscularis externa in that area right there. This produces movements in the alimentary canal, such as peristalsis and segmentation. All right? So this is made of two layers to it. So we have an inner layer, which are the circular fibers, which we see right there. All right? So when these contract, these are going to decrease the diameter of the tube. So the tube's going to get a little smaller. Outside of that are the longitudinal fibers. So you can see they move this way, lengthwise to the organ. So when these contract, they're going to make the tube shorter. Now these two layers are going to work together to produce the movements of peristalsis and segmentation. So in areas where we have sphincters, sphincters are where we have thickenings in that circular layer. So that circular layer is pretty thick, and these are going to act as valves to prevent backflow from occurring. The outermost layer is a serous membrane, so serosa, right? And this is our protective outermost layer of the alimentary canal. So it's going to produce serous fluid, and that's going to help reduce friction between the organs there